Hello and welcome to yet another Halo ranking tier list video. Obviously in this video I'm going to be ranking all the mainline Halo games and giving my opinions on why some games are good and why some games are bad, then obviously putting them on a tier list of course. To give a quick history of my relationship with Halo, Halo 3 was the first game I played on the best console ever, the Xbox 360, and I was in love with the game. I've played Halo 3's campaign, not shitting you, like 100 times throughout my life, beating it on all difficulties and on co-op and basically everything you could do with it. Since I fell in love with Halo 3, I went back and played Combat Evolved, Halo 2, and I got ODST and Reach. I remember the Christmas when I got Halo 4 and the Christmas where I got Halo 5. I went as Master Chief for Halloween one year, and basically all this to say I'm a big fan of this franchise with some of the best storytelling and gaming, and it inspired me in so many different ways. So I've played all these games extensively, and I feel pretty confident on where I'm going to be ranking them. And of course, if you disagree with my opinions, that's totally fine. Halo has such a dedicated and amazing fan base where literally everyone has their own viewpoints and opinions on the games. And if you'd have the time, I would like to hear what people think in the comments. All I ask is to please be civil and respectful about other people's thoughts on a video game. With all that being said, let's rank these masterpieces in order of release. Combat Evolved. Okay, if this was an objective tier list, this game would easily be S tier. With what this game did to the console gaming market is unreachable. Playing a first-person shooter with a controller on console was basically unheard of back in the day. There was GoldenEye and another game for the original PlayStation that I can't remember. But anyways, Halo CE perfected the gameplay with a controller. The controls for CE, while do feel a little weird compared to modern games, were on point. The controls fit the perfect gameplay loop of Combat Evolved. The enemy AI was basically perfect where every enemy had its own strategies, abilities, weaknesses, and strengths. It's what made CE so addictive to play. The gameplay is so perfect, I'd argue that anytime you die in the campaign, it's because of the player's fault. There's basically no bullshit ways you can die in this campaign. There's always different ways to approach enemy encounters, and you can make any of them work. This is also because of the amazing level design in CE, the big, expansive levels that made you hungry for exploration. I haven't even mentioned the story yet. I absolutely love the mysteriousness. I don't even know if that's a word. The mystery of CE. Hey, what's that giant ship? Hey, what's that giant ring? You're telling me there's life on that? What are these crazy structures? What the fuck is that? Characters, cutscenes, hype moments, everything about the story is amazing. Halo CE is literally the perfect beginning to the series, and there's so much to love about it. But with all that being said, I'm personally still only going to have to put it in A. I do love this game, but there's games that I love even more, and some games that hold this game back just a smidge. As good as the level design is, it can be a little repetitive at times. You do play through the same areas more than once, which can be a little underwhelming. But at least you run into different enemy encounters, which does help a lot. Also, the checkpoints can be a little brutal with how infrequent they come, and you can say it's a skill issue, which, yeah. And the graphics are definitely a product of the time. The art design is beautiful, but compared to modern times, you could definitely tell how limited the hardware was at the time. By no means does this mean CE is bad looking. It looks great. It's just we're not in the year 2001 anymore. And I'm spoiled by 4K. Also, the library gives me PTSD every playthrough. So yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with putting CE in A. Again, that's my opinion, but if this was an objective list, CE would hands down be S, but it's not. Oh, and how can I forget, the soundtrack is heavenly. It's also what makes playing CE so fun, is how good the music is. So yeah, I had to throw that in there. Halo 2 is next. Such a badass game. Halo 2 arguably has the best story in all the Halo games, and some of the best storytelling and gaming. The split perspectives between Chief and the Arbiter, and introducing the Arbiter, which is one of the best characters in all of Halo. Johnson, Tartarus, the Prophet, Shipmaster, so many great characters in this game. And there's so many badass and great moments in the story. This game really lead into Chief being an unstoppable threat. This dude can take out an entire planet without needing to aim down the sights of his gun, which is, it's cool, it's awesome, I don't even need to explain. And this game definitely had the best Chief lines.
Tell that to the Covenant, sir. Permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
Permission granted.
Just one question. What if you miss?
I won't.
All this, of course, even gets better with the badass soundtrack this game has. There's a great amount of mission variety, although the level design is a bit of a step down from Combat Evolved. And while on the subject, the AI isn't as fine-tuned as it was in CE. This is very apparent on Legendary difficulty, where the game is just straight up unfair. Halo 2 is hands down the hardest Halo game, and it's mostly because of these little fuckers right here. But besides the difficulty, Halo 2 is still awesome. I love the sandbox in this game and all the new weapons they added. Although again, I do wish the original Halo 2 had the assault rifle. It just feels wrong that it didn't have it. The Anniversary Edition added it, but it feels very similar to the Halo 4 version, which I'm personally just not a fan of. Anyways, the guns they did add are, I think, Now, all staples in Halo games, the Sentinel Beam, Beam Rifle, Battle Rifle, the Energy Sword. I remember playing as the Arbiter for the first time and just killing everything in sight with the Energy Sword. And while on the subject, the Arbiter is just so freaking cool, and it's probably my favorite part of Halo 2. He has some of the best comebacks in all of gaming.
You are the Arbiter, the will of the prophets. But these are my elites. Their lives matter to me, yours does not.
That makes two of us. Drawn quite a crowd. If they came to hear me beg, they will be disappointed. Faith, and is the more deluded. Kill me or release me, parasite. But do not waste my time with talk.
The kill me or release me line is just so fucking badass. And I love how all he wants to do is prove his worth and prove his loyalty, but then those same people betray him, and then it goes on this kind of side quest to get his revenge. And it just makes me so happy that he gets to fulfill that in Halo 3. And of course, this game added one of the most badass features in gaming, dual wielding. It's literally on the cover of the game. It's so badass. It's crazy all the different options and strategies you can have by just adding another gun to your other hand. And I like the added feature of being able to swap guns with your teammates too. It added like this little extra plan of attack, like you were building a squad before advancing to the next area. This game actually had AI teammates that kills things and help out. It's wild that modern games don't even do that. But yeah, I can go into even more detail, but in short, this campaign just makes you feel like a badass. Even when you're not playing as the Chief, the Arbiter is basically his equal and shows more into the Covenant lore. They're not just these mindless enemies that you're killing. They have their own beliefs and religions even. Their own armies and species that all try to prove their own worth. It's great stuff, honestly, and interesting to learn about, if you're a nerd. You learn about the lore in later games, but I wish Halo 2 had audio logs. It would give more reason to explore the levels, and it would give an even greater insight into the Covenant. But thankfully, 343 and the Anniversary Edition actually did add the terminals and give a lot more lore and in-depth into the Covenant and the story of Halo 2 in general, which is what I was just talking about and wanting. And of course, the multiplayer, I admittedly haven't played as much Halo 2 because it's mainly because it was past my time, and spoiler, I like Halo 3's more and play that way more. But Halo 2 MP is still a very fun time, and it kind of set the foundation for all online FPS games on console. And it also had a hardcore competitive fan base, which is pretty interesting, and it's still going on today. The maps are what stick out to me. I love the maps in Halo 2. The gunplay was pretty fun as well. And again, it was past my time, but I gotta respect the fact that they had DLC map packs that you could pay to play early, or just wait a couple months until they released the maps for free. Halo 2's MP was simple, but a great foundation for just online multiplayer games in general, but for Halo 2, obviously. So with all that being said, where does Halo 2 land? It's gotta be S tier, man. Even with the very few flaws this game has, they are heavily outweighed compared to the amazing new and improved features of this game. So yeah, it's gonna sit comfortably in S tier. And here it is, the best Halo game of all time, in my opinion. Even looking at the loading screen just damn near makes me shed a tear of nostalgia. This game is what introduced me to Halo. It's what introduced me to actual games that just weren't 2D Mario games, and what spawned my addiction to video games. Why this game specifically? Well, because it does everything right. Halo 3 takes everything that CE and 2 introduced and pushes it to its limit. The gameplay, graphics, level design, missions, music, cutscenes, sandbox, multiplayer. I mean, has everything that makes a Halo game Halo, and it does it best, in my opinion. The only quote-unquote negative thing I can say about Halo 3 is that the story, unfortunately, isn't as good as Halo 2. Halo 3 still has an amazing story, but I don't think it's better than 2. And I guess the game forcing you to slow down to watch these weird cutscenes or visions or whatever the hell they are a little annoying too, but that's it. The only bad things in the game. Finish the fight is such a powerful slogan for such an impactful game, and it describes a campaign perfectly. You're finishing the fight for the Halo rings, you kill the final prophet, you make amends with the elites, and hibernate and cryosleep until you're needed again. Halo 3 is the perfect conclusion of this 3-game story, and the missions themselves are straight up epic and awesome. Halo 3 brings back the wide, expansive level design from CE and makes you feel like you're really fighting in a war. I love all the vehicle sections in this game, and they're just awesome. I don't know how else to say it. Chief is still just as badass in this game as he was as 2, and I can't express how much I love the opening of this game. After falling from space, Chief just brushes it off like he got slapped from a napkin. And the moment he sees the Arbiter, he goes into hyper lethal mode and is about to blow his head smooth off. Even though Johnson is talking the Chief down, he still has the death stare of, hey, I'm gonna fuck you up if you make a wrong move. Then Arbiter hits him with the,
Were it so easy.
I mean, like... Arbiter is also still very badass in this game, although I do wish he was focused on a little bit more. He somewhat got downgraded to just like Chief's sidekick, which is cool, but for how much he did in 2, you'd think he would be like Chief's equal. Especially since they're both wanting to achieve the same goal. And I love towards the end of the game that little nod that they give each other when trying to escape the exploding ring. But back to the missions, they are still the best Halo has to offer. Halo 3 is hands down the most fun Halo game, with all the different crazy scenarios you run into, and how smoothly each level transitions into the next. I love the little game cutscenes that there are, the little moments in the game that just happen in the middle of gameplay. I love that little brute circle you run by where the chieftain is like, come eat my shit, and Chief is just like... I also love that little marine that you can save at the beginning of the game, where if you do save him, you can get a little bit of insight and dialogue of him explaining what the brutes did. It's just cool shit like that that's sprinkled all throughout Halo 3. The gunplay and gameplay and shooting and all of that has never felt better. Legendary on this game is pretty much perfect as it was in CE, just try not to get into vehicles. But the sandbox is perfect, and the sounds and the looks of the guns peaked in Halo 3. Remember that badass hammer that Tartarus used in the previous game? Well, guess what, bitch? You can now use it in the game, and it's awesome. The Gravity Hammer is such a perfect name for it. The music also peaked in Halo 3. Marty O'Donnell really proved how amazing he is, and is one of the few video game music producers that I can recognize by name. And I think he did his work best in Halo 3. Reach does come to a very close second place, though. Like with Halo 2, I can go on and on about this campaign, but in short, I think it's the best Halo campaign, so not really much more I need to say. Besides, rest in peace, Johnson. You will be missed.
Kick his ass.
Thinking about it, I don't think I've mentioned the Flood at all while talking about these games. The Flood are very interesting and cool, and I do kind of wish the Gravemind actually made an appearance in Halo 3, besides those like weird talking moments. I don't know how he'd fit in exactly, but he was a peak part of Halo 2, and I would just love to see him again, or it again. It's an amalgamation of dead souls and minds all bunched together to make one, so I don't know what you would call it. Another thing I forgot to mention is how I love the tension between the elites and Lordhood are. They know they need to work together, but both sides also can't forget the years and years of bloodshed that they've done to each other. And I love that cutscene of Johnson and the Arbiter swapping weapons between the two factions. Anyways, now we can move on to multiplayer. If you haven't guessed it by now, this is my favorite Halo multiplayer experience. Again, I just think it does everything right, and the best part about this multiplayer are the maps. So much variety and creativity and great flow and design. Halo 3 has the best maps out of any of the multiplayers in my opinion, and I said it before, but the sandbox for this game is perfect. Every gun has its own ability and uniqueness, and they all feel viable to use. This game is very balanced and just straight up plain fun. The maps and game modes work so well together, and I love how some maps were objective specific, made playing those game modes on those maps even more fun. I can't mention multiplayer without mentioning Forge. Halo 3 introduced Forge and became a staple in all Halo games. Honestly, I wish more games would have a Forge-like mode. Battlefield has Portal, and that's doing pretty good. So much replay value and endless amounts of fun to be had. The only thing I wish about Forge in Halo 3 is that there was a dedicated Forge map like they do in all the other titles. And they added theater mode too. Like, bro, how can you not tell me this game isn't peak? They added theater mode and they fucking nailed it on their first attempt. Something modern games are still trying to get right, and even modern Halo games by 343 can't get it to work properly. Like with the campaign, I can keep going on and on about Halo 3's MP, but it's the best in my opinion, and that's all you need to know. So if it isn't obvious enough, Halo 3 is going straight up to the top of S tier, best Halo game, personal favorite Halo game. It does everything right, so yeah, easy S tier. Now on to ODST, the game full of pure vibes. The lonely survivor walking through a torn up New Mombasa trying to find out what happened to his team. The rain and the soft jazz music in the background really immersed you into this game. There's not much to say about gameplay because it's pretty much the same as Halo 3 because, well, duh. One thing I do wish was different about this game is that if suppressors actually worked, for how more chill this game presents itself and having the impression of trying to be stealthy with having suppressed weapons, I wish they actually worked. Even if you shoot an enemy with a suppressed gun, I still feel like the enemies still get alerted anyways. So yeah, not much to say about the gameplay, but the story is where this game shines. It is simple, but its characters are really what makes it worth playing through. Alpha 9 is a super underrated part of Halo, and I feel like they don't get talked about enough. I also feel like a good amount of people don't even know your squad in ODST is called Alpha 9. But I love all these characters. Rookie is a great protagonist to put yourself in the shoes of to experience this world. He doesn't talk, so we don't know much about him, but we could tell through cutscenes and his actions that he genuinely cares about his team and wants to regroup and help them. Buck is a great character, and you could tell he also cares a lot about his team. And I actually have read and enjoyed the book where he becomes an official Spartan in New Blood, even if they fucking waste it, but we'll get to that later. But I also like his banters with Veronica. It seems like they have a little situationship going on, but that doesn't deter them from the greater threat. Romeo is also a great character. He is the sniper smartass of the group, and I think that combination makes for some comical and badass moments. Mickey too is this guy that kind of seems skittish, but in reality, he's this explosives expert that will fuck you up if he needs to. And lastly, there's Dutch. Don't really have much to say about him, but he's still a welcome addition to this group. Everyone has good chemistry and a moment to shine, and adds to this game from just making it a Halo 3 expansion. And I didn't mention it before, but the level design in this game is pretty unique. A semi-open world type of game where you discover different areas and unlock clues on what happened to your team. Pretty interesting, and I like it a lot. I love exploring through the city and hunting for audio logs and hear all the distress and chaos from the people in New Mombasa. Which I just realized I didn't mention the terminals in Halo 3, which is criminal because they're also an amazing part of that game. But it's already ranked as the best, so saying it has cool secrets just gives it even more points. But anyways. And of course, this game introduced Firefight, which is one of my favorite game modes to play. It is a simpler version of it, but in later titles, they do expand upon the foundation that this game set. Obviously, no multiplayer for ODST, so yeah, I guess that's it. Not much to say about ODST. It's just a solid experience that's nothing super crazy, but definitely still worth a playthrough. Story solid, gameplay solid, but again, it's basically just Halo 3 with minor tweaks. I would say more about it, but I want to save all that time for this upcoming entry, so for now, I'm going to put ODST in A, but behind Combat Evolved. And now we're on to Reach. Such an emotional experience. A good experience, though. Reach has the most beautiful story in all the Halos, if that makes sense. It's the most emotional, most cinematic, and the most impactful story of all the Halos. Reach is a setting-based story about the defense and overtaking of the planet Reach. The very desperate attempts to save this planet from being glassed by the Covenant. And I do love how weak the Covenant feels when you're slaughtering them as the Chief. I also love how threatening as fuck this game makes them feel. It kind of just proves how actually powerful Master Chief is. But the Covenant show no mercy in this campaign. They are brutal and actually pose a threat that Spartans might not be able to stop, and we later find out that they don't. And obviously, what makes the story and campaign so good and emotional is Noble Team. I fucking love these guys. Each member has their own strengths, weaknesses, personality, motivation. They actually feel like actual people that you're supporting and you want them to save this planet. Carter is the perfect commander and leader for his team. He motivates his team and makes sure they're in check. He does what needs to be done and isn't afraid to show when he needs a little help. I love that scene where he's talking to Kat about how to approach a mission because he himself isn't confident enough and needs a second opinion. It also shows that he trusts Kat and that they've probably been through some shit together. Kat herself is this badass killer and is the brains of the group. She approaches any situation as logically as she can, and she's careful about what she does and says. And it helps that her lines are pretty great too.
You didn't answer my question.
You want to know if we're losing?
I know we're losing. I want to know if we've lost.
June is a more badass Romeo. Again, he's this sniper smartass combo that really shines through his actions. He sits back from afar, but he also has some balls and will kill you up close if he gets the chance. Emil is definitely a highlight with that iconic skull face. Emil is the up close and personal killer, and when I mean personal, I really mean it. This dude is pissed, and he takes out the Covenant with a smile on his face and will not stop until they bow to him. I'm honestly surprised he's not categorized as hyper lethal like Noble 6 and the Chief are. He's hot-headed and bold and ready to pull the trigger on anything that moves, but is still very loyal to his team and does his best to protect him like family. And of course, George. I love George so much. The big friendly giant of the group. You can tell he has a soft spot for everything around him and how he treats people. But he's also this heavy gun specialist that will mow down a field of enemies to defend what he believes. And he believes in Reach. He grew up with this planet and it has always been good to him. It makes it more powerful and depressing when he sacrifices himself thinking he contributed to saving the planet, not knowing that humanity would still fail. He lives with a kind heart and truly believed that that was a tool to outweighing the Covenant, and I wish it was the case too. And last, but definitely not least, Noble motherfucking 6. Such a mysterious and dangerous character. He's a lone wolf and is categorized as hyper lethal. and there's only one other Spartan in that same category. What the fuck does hyperlethal mean? I mean, what does that entail? Are these guys just doomslayers that go out of their way to fuck shit up? I'm assuming the answer is yes, but anyways, 6 files are mostly covered with black ink, which again makes you think, what the fuck has this man done in this past? 6 is mostly a silent protagonist, but still has a few lines here and there. And even though he's a lone wolf, he does try to protect his team with everything that he can offer. And he also understands his role and that he is a very important piece to the puzzle for this mission.
6! That AI chose you. She made the right choice.
He quickly gains the trust of his team and understands how important Reach is and why he needs to defend it. He stays behind on Reach, knowing he can make it out alive, not because he wants to die, but because he knows people needed to remember that humanity tried to protect Reach, so that people remember Reach. These characters are what makes Reach's campaign so compelling, and what makes the story so emotional is their sacrifices and deaths. And multiple people have pointed this out before, but each member's death is ironic. Carter is the pilot of the team and dies by crashing a Pelican to save his team. Kat is the brains of the group and gets shot in the head. June is the hidden sniper that goes missing. Emil is a close quarters combat that gets stabbed. George is a heavy gun specialist that goes out with a bang. Double Six is a lone wolf that dies by himself. There are times where I think about the Halo games and I think which one has the best story, and it's between this game and 2. If I'm in a hyper badass feeling mood, it's 2, but if I'm in a more chill or sad mood, it's Reach. And what makes Reach so good is that all I've talked about is the story. Sorry if this is turning into more of an essay video than a ranking video, but look, I'm very passionate about this franchise. But yeah, Reach still has good level design, great missions, great gameplay, enemy AI, beautiful graphics, the music is freaking amazing as well. All the good stuff that still makes a good Halo game. Reach still has it all. Another cool and underrated part about Reach is how cinematic the campaign was. The camera work really showed off the setting and showed how tragic everything is. Some of these shots can be wallpapers. I mean, they're just gorgeous. And again, like with all the other Halo games, I can go into more detail about the campaign of Reach and make a whole essay video on it alone. But I personally just think it's better to go experience it yourself. But we'll move on to multiplayer now, which is good for the most part. The biggest negative about this game's multiplayer, in my opinion, are the armor abilities. 3 words. Fuck armor lock. Way too overpowered and is just not fun. Why in the middle of a gunfight does everything need to pause on a dime for this no skill having piece of shit? Anyways, I like the idea of armor abilities, but they're definitely not balanced correctly. Like, say you really wanted to use active camo and you're moving slowly and sneaking up to pick up a rocket launcher or something. But then this guy with a sprint ability just zooms across the map and gets it first. And because these maps are generally designed around people not using sprint, the people who did use it felt like they were going way too fast for everyone else. And it's the same with the jetpack, where there's some places that are exclusive to jetpack users, or the areas that are way easier to get with a bit of a boost from a jetpack. Like I said, I like the idea of armor abilities, and I admittedly haven't thought of a better or different way to balance them. But for what they're worth, they are fun, but still, fuck armor lock. The maps are another issue I have. They're not bad, but they're not on the same level as Halo 3. It kind of sucked that a good handful of them were Forge maps instead of dev-made maps. But I do have countless memories on that BTB map. I think Spire was the name of it. That's one of my favorite Halo maps of all time. And yeah, Forge was really good in this game, arguably better than 3. Me and my friends have made countless maps, and we'll spend a week 1v1ing / playing them, and then we would just make another after getting tired of it. And I honestly probably have spent more time on Forge than I have in multiplayer in all my time playing Reach. I just love making maps, I don't know why. They're mostly bad, but it was still fun to do 1v1s against somebody on a map you made, you know? Reach brought back Firefight 2, and it was also where a lot of my time playing Reach went to. I love wave survival type games like Firefight and Zombies from COD, and the survival game mode itself from Modern Warfare 2 and 3. The Firefight was so fun because it was Halo, you know, you're fighting against waves and waves of elites, jackals, grunts. Having a friend to fight alongside with, man, it's a blast. So yeah, Reach is overall an amazing game, and I can't express how much I like the campaign and story. And I kind of only talked about the negatives of multiplayer, but the reality is that it's still a great time. I still love Reach's multiplayer. There's just a few things that hold it back from being better or on par with Halo 3. I'm putting Reach in S tier because, man, I love this game to death, and it can be argued amongst these two for being the best Halo game. Me personally, though, it is an S, but it's still going to have to be behind Halo 2. And now we move on from the GOATs, the Bungie-made Halo games. And now we move on to the games made by 343. I'm already thinking about these next entries, and it just makes me think, like, man, the downfall of Halo needs to be studied. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Halo 4, the first Halo game made by 343. I'm going to try to be unbiased here. I was mixed on Halo 4 for a while. There's some days where I like this game and other days where I don't. And with those thoughts, I would say this game is just middle of the road. But after praising the GOATs and then looking at this game and just wondering, like, how did you fuck up a Halo game? You have 5 games to get information from and study on why they're so good. And Halo 4 doesn't have any of it. Let me explain before I get mad. Let me talk positives. Halo 4 has some good character moments for both Chief and Cortana, which I haven't talked about Cortana all video, but she's a good character, obviously. And both her and Chief get the most amount of character depth out of any of the Halo games. Chief is more humanized in this game than any other game, and I actually don't mind this. He talks a lot more and has a lot more lines in this game, and after 3 games of being a hollow husk of armor, it's nice to see more about him. What his personality is, what his weaknesses are, if he has any. How he would actually realistically communicate to other people. Chief is different in this game compared to others, but I honestly think it's an interesting thing to watch unfold. And I like his realization at the end of the game where he talks about being a machine or human from a conversation he had with Cortana. The story of this game is ultimately Chief having to accept letting go of Cortana and damn near letting go of his consciousness. This voice that has motivated him and has been with him throughout his journey. He's just watching her walk away. And it's equally sad, but it's also kind of nice to see Chief be emotional for once. Now on to the bad stuff, which is everything else. I fucking hate the art style of this game. What the fuck is this? Seriously, what is this shit? Chief's armor looks like shit and I'm tired of pretending like it doesn't. Seriously, is there a single person that plays these games and looks at Halo 4's art style and think it's better than the games before it? Yes, graphical fidelity is better, but the art style and look of everything looks like dog shit. The guns, structures, enemies are all bad. Honestly, just everything is worse compared to the previous games. The enemy AI is shit. The level design is shit. The sound design is alright, but it doesn't really sound like Halo. Vehicles are nerfed. Guns don't feel good. Music is worse. The game just doesn't feel like a Halo game, and that's my biggest problem. This game doesn't feel like Halo. It doesn't look like Halo. It doesn't act like Halo. It feels like a knockoff, shittier version of the thing I love. And I don't like the gameplay of this game. The enemy AI is worse and dumber than it was from a game released in 2001. Speaking of enemies, why the fuck are we fighting elites again? And more so the Covenant. Sure, they still hate humanity, but who's leading them? What are they trying to take over now? There's no rings left at this point, and elites just decide to join back up with the Covenant? I know it's kind of hard to believe that every single elite to exist made amends with the UNSC, but if brutes are still around, then they probably would still try to take control of the Covenant and still hate elites. So again, why would the elites get back with the Covenant? If brutes aren't around, then elites can be the new guys in charge, but then why would they pick a fight with humanity again? They made peace after years of bloodshed, and you think once they stopped, they wouldn't want to continue on again unless there was some motive. And all of this is explained in one line.
I thought we had a truce with the Covenant.
A lot can happen in 4 years.
What the fuck? That's it? No, okay, whatever. There's probably some behind the scenes things that happen that you could probably poke holes in my own logic on why we're fighting them again. Now, I realize they do start warpishing the didact, but I don't know why. But it really does just feel like 343 was like, hey, the player needs an enemy to fight, and then shit out this idea of fighting the Covenant again. I got kind of sidetracked, but again, the enemy AI is just dumb and the Covenant are straight up not fun to fight. But wait, there's a new type of enemy, the Prometheans, and I can't lie, sick ass name. But unfortunately, they fall victim to the same problem. They're not fun to fight against at all. Knights are a pain in the ass because they just teleport and you don't know where the fuck they go. Watchers are also a pain in the ass because they give other Promethean shields and they bring them back to life and completely get rid of your use for grenades. Crawlers are the only interesting thing to fight because they're basically fast-moving grunts that can easily overwhelm you and climb on walls, which is interesting. And while on the subject for how ass the guns perform, the Prometheans guns do look fucking sick. The amount of detail and effort they put into these animations does have to be applauded. But who are the Prometheans? Oh, there's this guy named the Didact that controls them, I think, and he's basically their leader, but like, what exactly does he want to do? What are his goals, and why is he basically a Darth Vader knockoff with his reasonably sized Death Star and his force choke abilities? I do actually know the answers to these, but I'm sure 90% of the Halo players don't, at least the casual ones. Most of this information comes from the terminals and not the actual cutscenes in the game, which is a choice, I guess. But there is one exception, the infamous Librarian cutscene. Arguably the most boring and exhausting cutscene in all of Halo. Feels like I'm listening to a teacher lecture about some fucking useless math equations that I'll never use. As bad as it is, this cutscene does explain a lot about what's going on in Halo 4. It just does a very poor way of executing it. Basically, the Prometheans are actually Forerunners that try to roboticize themselves from being infected from the Flood, which is actually kind of badass. But that goes wrong, and they turn into these warriors that fight, and the Didact was a rebellion and didn't want to fall victim to the Flood taking over humanity. And now he's looking for a device called the Composer that will let him take over humanity, I guess, because they have a mantle that's at risk. And he wants to leave Requiem, which is, well, I wish I could tell you, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, him leaving Requiem is apparently a bad thing. He also battled humans for millennia and to fight for that Composer device. Oh, and all this is told to us by a ghost AI, which, okay. And look, this is what I gathered from watching this cutscene, and I still don't feel like I have all the information, let alone if it's right. So basically, most of the time, you don't know what the hell you're doing in Halo 4, and the game's not fun to play. So overall, the campaign is just not it, unfortunately. The only saving grace is the other half of the story, which is the Chief and Cortana inner conflicts that I was talking about earlier. But it's not even worth experiencing unless you want to walk down a linear hallway simulator. There was one expansive level that comes to mind, but the visuals are just not there. It's just a bunch of orange. And also, why is this campaign so short? There's 10 missions. If I remember correctly, 2 of them are purely cutscenes, so there's technically only 8. Again, to keep this video from being 3 hours long, I'll just leave it at that. But in conclusion, Halo 4's campaign just doesn't feel like Halo. Then there's multiplayer, which I didn't really play a whole lot of. I didn't like it. So, from what I remember, it tried to be like Call of Duty, and you can make your own classes and call in vehicles like kill streaks, and it just didn't work as well as you think it would. It'd be a cool game mode, but not the entire multiplayer experience. But that's more or less all I can say. I just simply don't remember it that well. And then there was Spartan Ops, which again, in concept sounds cool, but it just wasn't executed as well as it could have. I also don't remember it being all that bad, but obviously not good enough to remember it either. And it replaced Firefight, which I don't agree with, but that's 343 for you. Better get used to a lot of things that they do that you don't agree with. Halo 4 has moments and features that can be good, but for the most part, it's just whatever at best. Sometimes I feel nice and would say this game is like a B, but after ranting about all the bad things, I'm going to have to put it in C. Sorry, not sorry. Moving on to Halo 5. And finally, we have Halo Infinite. Unfortunately, another mixed bag. This is hands down my favorite 343 game, but it's not like there's much competition. I just recently rewatched other people's reactions to that first reveal trailer, and man, it actually gave Halo fans a spark of hope, but the game couldn't live up to those massive expectations. Start with the positives. Halo Infinite thankfully goes back to the original art style, and it looks amazing. Like, it never needed to change. Chief actually looks like Chief in this game. One thing I can respect about Infinite, and something I think is an overhated change, is the decision to take the campaign to open world. Now, I do agree that it's not the most expansive or impressive open world. On paper, an open world Halo game with all the different vehicles and weapons and lore of Halo, I think would be amazing, but maybe that's just me. I actually did like this campaign enough to go through and 100% it, and I actually had a fun time. It's not really that hard, but it was still enjoyable for what it was. Taking out the leaders, taking out all the fobs, hunting for skulls and audio logs, looking for Spartan cords for upgrades. I mean, there's a good handful of stuff to do in this open world. And the map itself isn't that big, at least compared to other open world games, but the map is a perfect size for what it has to offer. Aside from a few areas that do feel a bit too empty. Enemy AI and gameplay was overall improved significantly from Halo 4. The level design for the most part is decent because of, well, the open world part, but a good chunk of the missions take place in these boring, gray, Forerunner structures that just kind of get tedious after a while. And the missions themselves are overall decent. I like the little boss fights here and there. The Banished are fun enough to fight against. Vehicles were always fun to use as well. The gunplay felt nice, and I like the sandbox that's in this game, but I do wish more weapons were added to the campaign. I like the upgraded versions of the guns you could unlock, like the sniper rifle that was tailored more towards mid-range fights and not from afar. The energy sword variants that make you run faster, just little bonuses or changes to the guns you already like. That was pretty cool to see. But I guess I'll move on to the story now, which is basic, it's simple, it's nothing crazy. The Banished are just the Covenant replacement. They find a new Halo ring and want to take it over and take over humanity and all these other generic things that we've already seen. The villains, if you can even call them that, aren't fleshed out at all. We don't know what their motives are or why they feel the need to take over this ring. I know the Banished are way more explored and explained in Halo Wars 2, but I haven't played that game because I was told by the developers I didn't have to play it to understand Infinite's story. but they're basically just brutes with red instead of blue, and the Covenant has joined them too on their quest. But yeah, the villains are more or less just minor inconveniences for Chief to do what he does best, which is killing aliens. Chief somewhat goes back to how he was in the older games, where he talks much less than he did in Halo 5 and 4, but when he does talk, he does make it count. I absolutely love his motivating speech to Echo 216. And speaking of him, I do love Echo 216 as well. Him and Chief bounce off of each other very well, and I like how he's kind of the representation for humanity. He likes Chief and knows he's capable of taking care of things, but he also thinks that it's unnecessary to keep fighting, and all he wants to do is go home. He very easily loses hope when something goes wrong, but he also gets that hope back anytime Chief has a plan on what to do next. And it's nice to see a simple pilot go out of his way to help Chief sometimes when he needs it. So yeah, I like Echo 216. Really, the only other character that comes to mind is Weapon. She's pretty much a more lighthearted and less sassy Cortana, which is fine. She's doing her own thing and it works, and I like seeing Chief trying to adjust to this new AI that is a spinning image of what he once lost. Her purpose doesn't make any sense, because I'm not counting Halo 5's story as canon, but she is a welcome addition either way. There's not much more that comes to mind about Infinite's campaign. It was just a simple, fun, casual experience. I'm sure I could think of a lot of things to talk about, but again, I don't want this video to be crazy long. And now we land at the multiplayer, which, to give 343 some credit, they have improved immensely since I last talked about the MP. That's really what makes me so hesitant to say this is a good or great Halo game. It's just all the drama and behind the scenes and how they handle this game that just doesn't give me that confidence. I made a whole video talking about it if you want to go check it out, but I did play way more Halo Infinite than most people, and I know there's a good amount of people that has even more playtime than me. Even knowing the downgrade this game's MP was compared to other Halos, I still put my all, and I really gave this game a shot. And I liked it, you know, I had a good time on it. I grinded out multiple battle passes, and I'm ashamed to admit, but I even put some money into this game, buying some of the bundles and stuff. After they overhauled it though, not when everything was overpriced. And again, to go back to the issue of how they handled this game for the first couple of years. Content came out very rarely, no new weapons, maps, vehicles. The game was just very bare bones, again, for a couple years after release. Like I said before, I did like the sandbox the game had at launch. It felt like old Halo, where every weapon had a unique ability and it strived in different ways in how you can use it. I like the banished weapons that they added. They were cool and unique once again, but I wish they added more weapons and way more often. There's countless weapons to choose from previous Halo games, but unfortunately, I don't know if we'll ever see those guns again. Even if they didn't add guns, because I know they didn't in previous Halo games, but at least they could have added more maps. The biggest thing that bugged me about Infinite were the maps. They were way too damn small, and even the BTB maps just felt like regular sized Halo 3 maps. Even with the negatives, after the whole debacle with the employee layoffs and when Season 3 for the game was coming around, 343 really did lock the fuck in. Maybe because they didn't want to lose their jobs, but that's just a game theory. After a while, they did start coming out with more frequent updates, and they added a lot more content. They added Forge after a year, which is a long time, but is arguably the best Forge Halo has to offer. I mean, you can really make any kind of experience you want with the tools they gave you, and I've seen some pretty impressive stuff. And they even added gunfight into the game, which, you know, gotta give him props. Infinite on release probably would have been pretty low on the ranking list, but after sitting with it for a few years and putting a lot of time into it, it's almost like I have a sweet spot for this game, and it doesn't really feel right to rank it low. I feel like being nice, so you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B ranking. It fits perfectly as my favorite 343 game, but it's still not on the same level as the Bungie games. So yeah, I guess that's my list. Before I end it, I guess I will give a little context to my Halo 5 spot. I despise this fucking game. It's so fucking awful that in my personal canon for these games, I don't even count it. Waste of fucking time. I'd rather have Batman himself torture me rather than play or talk about this game's campaign. It super sucks, and that's all you need to know. And trying to be fair, the multiplayer was okay. I personally didn't like it, but I did have some fun with it here and there, and I know there's a good group of people who do like it, so more power to you. But I just can't give this game the... What's the smallest measurement? Can't give this game a fucking plank length of credit. I hate it, and it makes me sad and angry, so I'm just gonna move on. But here's my list. Let me know what you think, and if you want to discuss anything Halo, let me know in the comments, because I'm a giant nerd, and I know more about the lore of this game than how to talk to women. So, hope you enjoyed watching, hope you learned something new, and have a good day.